aces are out. The team has swarmed Jordan Bennington. The coaches are hugging and crying. I can't believe it. I cannot believe what I am witnessing right now. St. Louis, a team that was put together in the fall, new faces, new roles. They struggled and struggled and bent. And on the verge of breaking, they found their game after Christmas. They came together, they fought together, they won together, and now they are Stanley Cup champions together. This is not a dream. This is real life St. Louis. Let's party.
The Stanley Cup playoffs are now over, and like every year, we have a Stanley Cup champion. For the second straight year, it's from a team that had not yet won a Stanley Cup before that year. The St. Louis Blues are Stanley Cup champions. The Blues were founded and started playing in the 1967-68 season. The Blues had been in the Stanley Cup 3 times before this one, but never won a single game of the Stanley Cup until this year. The Blues went to the Stanley Cup in the final in their first 3 years as an organization, twice by the Montreal Canadiens in 1968 and 1969, and then 1970 by the Boston Bruins, and they were swept. The Blues did not miss the playoffs until 1973-74. They made it back to the playoffs in 1976-77, but that would be the last time the Blues would make the playoffs that decade. The team was struggling with finance. They were on the brink of financial collapse. The team also had their worst year, which is still the worst year they had so far, and it was the 1977-78 season. The following year, after the last year, they would make the playoffs in the 70s. The team went 18, 50, and 12 with 48 points. The very next year, they was the start of consistent playoff appearances. In the 1978-79 season, the Blues made it back to the playoffs. In the 1980-81 season, the Blues were the second best team in the NHL. However, were eliminated by the New York Rangers in the second round of playoffs. The next year, the Blues made it to the second round in the playoffs before being eliminated by the Chicago Blackhawks. In 1983, the Blues were eliminated by the Chicago Blackhawks again, this time in the first round. The team was terminated during the offseason. The Blues were very close to folding. The organization tried hard to keep the team in St. Louis. The organization came out successful. In 1991, the Blues were the second best team in the NHL, made it to the second round but were eliminated by the Minnesota North Stars there. St. Louis was eliminated in the first round in 1995, and then the very next year in the second round in 1996. The Blues were the only team in the NHL to make the Stanley Cup playoffs in all 10 years in the 90s. The Blues won the President's Trophy in the 1999-2000 season, but were eliminated by the San Jose Sharks in the first round. The next year, the Blues made it to the Western Conference Final, where they were eliminated by the Colorado Avalanche. The Blues had made the Stanley Cup playoffs from 1980 to 2004, the third longest streak by a team in North America, but they never won the Stanley Cup, nor did they make the finals. Oh, well, they made the finals once. The next year, after 2004, the Blues had the worst record in 27 years. The Blues also had a bit of an attendance issue. They were usually supported really well, but they were only averaging 12,000 fans per game, and their arenas heated up to 19,000. The Blues did not play good in the 2005-2006 season, this time having the worst record in the NHL. In 2007, they missed the playoffs too. In the 2007-2008 season, the Blues finally made it back to the playoffs too. At the end of the 2010-11 season, it was announced that the Blues were on sale. In 2012, they made the playoffs for the first time since 2009. They also won their first playoff series since 2002, but the Blues were swept by the Los Angeles Kings in the second round. In 2013, the Blues were eliminated by the Kings again, this time in the first round. In 2014, the Blues were eliminated by the Chicago Blackhawks in the first round. In 2015, the Blues won the Central Division but were eliminated in the first round by the Minnesota Wild. In 2016, the Blues made it to the Western Conference Final but were eliminated by the San Jose Sharks there. In 2017, the Blues were eliminated by the Nashville Predators in the second round. In the 2018 offseason, the Blues acquired Ryan O'Reilly from the Buffalo Sabres. The Blues had several talents rather than O'Reilly. The Blues also had Vladimir Tarasenko and Braden Shen. They could also pick up some assists and goals. The Blues also had a talented goalie in Jordan Binnington, but the Blues did not start the season good. On November 19, 2018, the Blues fired Mike Yeo after starting the season 7-9-3. On January 1st, 2019, things weren't looking good for the Blues as they were last in the NHL. But Craig Berube coached this team to third place in the Central Division. The Blues clinched the playoffs on March 29, 2019, to become the 7th team since 1967-68 to clinch a playoff after being one of the worst teams before the All-Star break. The Blues were going to play the first round against the Winnipeg Jets. I thought that the Blues had no chance against the Jets. Turned out the Blues were not outplayed, as the Blues outplayed the Jets to finish the series with a victory. The Blues won to play the Stars in the second round of what I thought was an easy victory for the Blues. And it was a victory, but it was not easy. The Blues took another trip to the Western Conference Final for the first time since 2016. I thought that this would be the end of the Blues' magical run, but it wasn't. The Blues outplayed the Sharks to get out of the Western Conference Final victorious. The Blues were going to the Stanley Cup Final to play the Bruins. I thought the Bruins were going to win their first Stanley Cup since 2011. In Game 1, we are in Boston for this one. Since Boston was the better team, they had home ice advantage. We're 7 minutes into the opening period and there's no score. Braden Shen has a chance for a second rebound for the Blues and he gets it past Tuukka Rask. It is 1-0 Blues. We are 30 seconds in the second period. Vladimir Tarasenko gets a wraparound chance, he gets it in the net. It is 2-0 Blues. Now, just a minute after the Tarasenko goal, Connor Clifton tries the wrist shot and comes out with a goal. It is now 2-1 Blues. 10 minutes after the Clifton goal, the Bruins are on a power play with 30 seconds left on that power play. Charlie McAvoy tries for the unassisted goal and comes out successful. The game is now tied at 2. 5 minutes into the final regulation period, Sean Curley does not have an open shot with the goalie right in front of him. He still tries to get the puck in the net and somehow ends up successful. The Bruins now lead 3-2 and we keep that lead to win Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final. Game 2 is in Boston again. The action starts earlier than last game. The Bruins are on a power play with less than a minute 30 left on the power play. Charlie Coyle tries a slap shot and comes out successful. It is now 1-0 Bruins, but Robert Bertuzzo ties it with a wrist shot. But Joachim Nordstrom gives the Bruins a 2-1 lead with a tip-in. But I told you Tarasenko is good. He really is. He ties the game with a tip-in. This game stayed tied at the end of regulation. Carl Gunnarsson tries a slap shot and comes out successful. And the Blues go home with a win. The series is tied. We are in St. Louis for the third game. It takes the longest so far for there to be action. Patrice Bergeron gets it in with a tip-in to make it 1-0 Bruins, and they will not give up lead for the rest of the game. The Bruins win 7-2 and take a 2-1 series lead. We are in St. Louis again for Game 4. Ryan O'Reilly gets the score and started with a wraparound shot, but Charlie Coyle ties it with a tip-in. But Vladimir Tarasenko with a tip-in to give the Blues the lead again. But with the Blues on the power play, Brandon Carlo ties the game with a wrist shot. And then O'Reilly with his second goal to give the Blues the lead again. That would seal the deal as the Blues would go on to win 4-2. In Game 5, we are back in Boston where Ryan O'Reilly gets started with a tip-in goal. The Blues would go on to win 2-1, never giving up the lead. The Blues now led the series 3-2 and have a chance to close the series out at home, where they can surprise their fans with a Stanley Cup championship. In Game 6, we are back in St. Louis, where the Blues could not prevent a goal early by Brad Marchand with a slap shot. The Blues cannot surprise their fans with a Stanley Cup at home, as the Bruins win 5-1 to tie the series. Sorry, maybe next time. Game 7 is in Boston. The Stanley Cup is ready for whoever wins the game. Ryan O'Reilly opens the scoring with a wrist shot. Alright, the Bruins have only scored 1 goal. There is 10 seconds. Can the Blues win this? And game over. Series over. The Blues have won the Stanley Cup. The fans are going crazy in St. Louis. The parade is tomorrow in St. Louis. I hope you guys enjoy this history skit and of course video. Like this video, subscribe to my channel if you're new, and turn those post notifications on. This is Baseball and Hockey God. Like always, I'm out. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.